There is a truth almost no man dares to look at directly. It is not rejection that destroys a man, it is the innocence with which he enters the game. Most men walk through the world believing female attraction is some unpredictable mystery, an emotional lottery, when in reality it is a precise, deep, and sometimes brutally logical mechanism, and the less you understand it, the more you become prey. They say, what you do not know cannot hurt you. A lie. In psychology, what you do not understand dominates you. What you ignore controls you, and what you refuse to confront will one day destroy you without you even knowing why. Right now, as you hear my voice, there is a woman remembering your scent or forgetting your name. She is idealizing you or burying you. And the disturbing part is that most of the time, you do not even notice the transition. You only feel that something cools, something cracks, something fades. 2 steps back, a shorter look, a silence that was not there yesterday. Men call it distance. Psychologists call it emotional dissonance. I call it the invisible border where only the man who understands the hidden rules survives. Are you ready to hear truths that hurt? Write control if you are ready. Now listen carefully. I am about to open the door to a territory almost no one walks into with a clear mind. A territory where Jung spoke of symbols, Nietzsche of instincts, and Machiavelli of power. And although these 11 principles seem simple, they are woven from the deepest threads of female psychology. Each one is a map, a warning, and above all, a weapon. Because only when you understand what a woman truly feels, truly fears, and truly desires, the game stops being a mystery and becomes strategy. 1. Smell, the hidden detonator of attraction. You are walking down the street. A woman passes by you. You do not touch her, you do not look at her, you do not say a single word. But for a microscopic moment, she shivers. Not because of your face, not because of your voice, but because of something modern men have forgotten, your scent. Psychology confirms it. For a woman, smell is an ancient language. While you analyze with your eyes, she decides with her nose. It is primitive biology, coded from a time when choosing wrong meant dying. A scent that resonates with her internal chemistry can open doors your appearance never will. A scent that clashes with her closes them forever. Women have up to 50% more olfactory neurons. That is not a detail. It is an evolutionary weapon. When a woman smells you, she is not just sensing an aroma. She reads your stress, your health, your strength, your testosterone, your emotional state. This is why some women look at you 2 seconds longer and why others disappear instantly. Her attraction to you can rise up to 85% purely from your natural essence. We are not talking about perfume. We are talking about you. The ordinary man ignores this. The conscious man uses it as a signature, a psychic imprint. He does not invade, he does not beg. He simply exists, and his scent completes the rest. 2. Boundaries, the secret language of respect. Jung said that a man's shadow is revealed the moment he feels needy, and few things destroy masculine energy faster than urgency. Urgency is anxiety. Anxiety smells like scarcity, and scarcity repels any woman with instinct. Women feel attraction toward men who move at their own rhythm, not at the rhythm of her desperate desire. Boundaries are not walls. They are silent declarations of inner power. A man without boundaries is like a river without edges. He overflows, he gets lost, he becomes chaotic. But a man who marks his space, who moves slowly, who allows things to breathe, that man awakens security. And security is an aphrodisiac. Get close too fast, and she closes. Advance slowly, observe, and she opens. Psychological niches activate when a woman feels the man is not desperate to possess her, but willing to know her. The difference is subtle, but devastating. 3. She feels before she speaks, the law of female silence. There is a type of emptiness that terrifies many men. Female silence. They think that if she says nothing, she feels nothing. But psychology shows the opposite. 68% of women consider a relationship without ever saying it out loud. The feeling rises first in her body, then in her mind, and only at the very end, in her voice. The naive man waits for words. The conscious man looks for signals. A held gaze, a soft smile, a touch that did not need to happen. Women rarely confess first for one simple reason. Rejection hurts them in a way men cannot imagine. That is why they speak through hints, why they test you, why they wait. Sometimes all they need is a spark of courage from you. Not a dramatic confession, just an energy that says, without saying it, I see you, and I know what is happening here. 4. Preselection, the unconscious echo of another woman's desire. There are men who walk into a room as if women sense them before they even arrive. It is not magic, it is psychology. When other women show interest in you, something activates in the female mind, a silent validation. Preselection is an evolutionary law. If others want him, he must have value. And that value is not always physical. Sometimes it is energy, sometimes it is mystery, sometimes it is power. A man surrounded by women does not need to proclaim he is attractive. He is already verified. The ordinary man tries to be desired. The conscious man simply lives surrounded by feminine energy and lets that speak for him. 5. The tease, the ritual of attraction. There is a type of game not all men understand. A soft provocation, a strange nickname, a laugh hiding a challenge. Women do this not to humiliate, but to measure. They want to see if your ego is fragile or if your spirit is flexible. A woman does not want a man who breaks from words. She wants a man who plays, who keeps the energy light but charged with intention. Female teasing is a bridge disguised as a blade. If you react poorly, she withdraws. If you stay calm, if you reply with a touch of fire, the chemistry ignites. The ordinary man gets offended. The conscious man smiles and lets the attention do its work. Revelation, the silent law. Here is the part almost no one dares to say. Women do not fall in love with what you do, but with how you hold yourself inside their reactions. It is not your scent, not your boundaries, not your social energy, not your humor. It is your presence in front of all of it. The man who collapses at the first sign loses. The man who interprets, observes, and stays becomes unforgettable. And now that you know this, you are ready for the darkest part. What happens inside the female mind when a man appears whom she cannot control. There is an invisible line in a woman's mind that very few men ever cross. A frontier where interest becomes silent obsession, where curiosity turns into emotional vigilance, and where your presence stops being physical and becomes a psychic phenomenon inside her. This is not a place you enter with looks, with smooth lines, or with displays of value. It is a territory that opens only for one type of man. The man who does not tremble before female intensity, the man who does not melt under her beauty, and above all, the man whose mind is deeper than his words. A man like that does not compete, does not beg, does not chase. He simply stands there with such firm presence that her emotions start orbiting around him as if he were a center of gravity. But I warn you, entering this level is not soft. It is psychological. It is dark. And if you do not know how to hold it, it consumes you. 6. Body language, the code she expects you to read. A woman will rarely tell you what she wants. That would be too simple, too linear. And female emotion is not linear. It is circular, intuitive, symbolic. Which is why her true language is never in her words. It is in her gestures. A body turned toward you, a gaze that lasts 2 seconds longer than what is socially acceptable, a strand of hair she twists as you speak, a step closer even though the room is empty, a smile at the exact moment you look away. Most men see these as coincidences. The conscious man reads them like a manuscript in motion. Because in women, the body speaks before the mind understands. Her desire leaks through the muscles. Her nerves expose emotions she will not admit out loud. Her breathing changes before she notices what she is feeling. When a man ignores these signals, she sees emotional blindness. But when you respond without exaggeration, a slow approach, a soft touch, a steady look, the chemistry explodes. Not because you conquered her, but because you understood her. And a woman never forgets the man who understands her without words. 7. The secret of lingerie, a doorway into her psyche. Most men think lingerie is only aesthetic, a visual temptation, something sensual and decorative. That is the thinking of a man who does not know how to see. Lingerie is an intimate psychological message, a silent confession of her vulnerability. She does not choose underwear randomly. Every texture, color, and detail is an internal dialogue between how she wants to feel and how she fears being seen. Commenting on her lingerie with sincere masculine presence is not a physical compliment. It is a recognition of her intimacy, an entry into a mental space very few are allowed to enter. When a man notices that detail, without lust, without exaggeration, without need, something in her loosens. The tension drops. The guard lowers. Because for one brief moment she feels you perceive what others never see. And that feeling, the feeling of being seen from the inside, is addictive. 8. Emotional connection, the bond that cannot be faked. Women can tolerate a man who is not perfect. They can tolerate flaws, awkward silences, social clumsiness. But there is one thing they will never tolerate: emotional disconnection. I am not talking about being emotionally intense, I am talking about being emotionally present. When a woman feels that you truly listen, that your eyes stay on her, that your energy does not scatter, an ancient mechanism activates, the mechanism of emotional union. Physical attraction is only the door. Emotional connection is the room. It is the space where she can take off the mask, drop the facade, and let her breath shift because for a moment she feels understood. Most men think listening is passive, but listening with intention is a form of power, silent, elegant, almost dangerous. Because when a woman feels emotionally seen, her body responds before her mind. She does not come closer because you are attractive. She comes closer because she feels safe in your presence. And if you know how to hold that safety, it becomes desire. 9. Her friends, the invisible oracle. Many men underestimate the influence of the female circle. Fatal mistake. A woman's mind does not think individually, it thinks collectively. Not because she depends on her friends, but because her emotional psychology works through mirrors. Her friends amplify, question, interpret, and validate emotions she has not yet processed. This is why, for many women, friends are an emotional oracle, a filter, a ritual, an advisory council. If a woman starts talking about you with her friends, you are already inside a very different territory. From there, every gesture of yours is analyzed, every word studied, every silence interpreted as a symbol. If you are liked in that circle, her attraction expands. If you trigger distrust, it contracts. The ordinary man competes with the friends. The conscious man does not. Why? Because he understands that influencing that circle is not manipulation. It is understanding. A kind gesture, a calm presence, a grounded energy, and her friends become silent allies. Allies who unintentionally make you look trustworthy in her eyes. 10. The exchange date, the hidden economy of desire. There is an aspect of female psychology nobody wants to talk about: exchange. Sometimes a woman accepts a date not out of romantic interest, but for emotional comfort, temporary company, or even a practical benefit. This does not make her bad. It reflects an emotional system that prioritizes security over passion. And security, at its most basic, means resources, protection, structure. Many men become the free food guy without realizing it, not because they lack attractiveness, but because they cannot distinguish emotional interest from strategic courtesy. The key is not to be distrustful, but to be perceptive. A woman's behavior outside the date reveals much more than her enthusiasm during dinner. If she appears only when there is something to gain, it is exchange. If she appears even when there is nothing to gain, it is real interest. The ordinary man gets offended when he discovers this. The conscious man smiles, because he understands attraction is not moral, it is dynamic. There is a critical moment in every connection. When she is upset, most men feel fear in that moment. She raises her tone, she pulls away, she closes off. They think it is rejection. It is not. When a woman becomes emotionally activated, she enters a vulnerable psychological state. And that state does not want your distance, it wants your containment. Her initial withdrawal is a protection mechanism, but the truth is deeper. When she breaks, she wants to know if you are still there. Not to solve the problem, not to justify yourself, but to hold the emotional weight without falling apart. Move toward her with softness, with firmness, with unshakable presence. That moment is the ultimate test. The ordinary man becomes defensive. The conscious man breathes and lets the storm pass while he remains standing. A woman never forgets the man who did not fear her chaos, the hidden expansion, when she gets attached without knowing why. I have shown you 11 psychological laws, but behind them all lies something deeper: emotional anchoring. When a man combines presence, boundaries, calmness, emotional reading, and a touch of mystery, something happens inside the female mind. Her attachment system activates, not as anxiety, but as fascination. She begins to remember you in fragments: the tone of your voice, your scent, your rhythm when you walk, the way you breathed while listening, the way your eyes dropped right before you smiled. She thinks of you without meaning to. She compares you without noticing. She asks herself questions she cannot understand. Why does she feel exposed when you look at her? Why does she get uneasy when you take too long to reply? Why does she calm down when you speak? This is the deep psychology of attraction. It does not happen at the surface level, but in the subconscious. And once you enter that level, it does not matter how many men are around her, you are anchored in a place none of them can reach. The uncomfortable truth. Here is the revelation that connects everything, the piece almost no man wants to accept. Women do not fall in love with the man who understands them. They fall in love with the man who understands himself. Because a man who understands himself does not overflow, does not lose himself, does not dissolve. His scent, his boundaries, his calm, his emotional awareness, his social energy, his humor, all of that is just the reflection. The true core is his inner presence. Most men look for techniques. The rare few look for truth. And only that rare few become unforgettable. Remember this: a woman does not follow the man who chases her, nor the man who idealizes her, nor the man who overanalyzes everything. She follows, sometimes against her own logic, the man whose presence makes her feel something she cannot control. That is the texture of female desire. That is the hidden engine of attraction, and that is the most brutal, powerful truth. A conscious man does not conquer women. He conquers his own shadow, and the feminine world responds to that as if it were destiny.